Hey there, guys. Robert Weichelt with another episode of Weichelt Wednesday. Today is a great day. We have our good friend Sherri Mercurio on the call. How are you doing, Sherri?
Hey, buddy. Nice to see you.
Oh, you know what? It's great to see you as well. I tell you, we've been on the same stage together. We've trained together. We've known each other for a while. And you're just a stellar agent. So I want to share with the audience, first things first, who's Sherri Mercurio?
Oh, man, that's such a loaded question. Let me tell you, Sherri Mercurio is a rock star realtor. That's what I tell people. But in all fairness, I'm a second generation realtor. So I grew up in this industry. I've been around a long time, and it was really cool to learn like the old school practice of the way things have worked. So yeah, I was answering phones at 8 o'clock. So I was just born and bred to be a real estate broker, no doubt.
You know what? That's funny is my mother's a real estate broker as well. And when I was 10 years old, I have two younger brothers and mom being in real estate. So she'd leave us with the babysitter when we're kids. I was 10 years old at the time. And the babysitter just said, you know what, Robert, you have way too much energy. I'm going to drop you off at your mother's office, which is a real estate office. So I got to hang around a bunch of agents at an early age, delivering termite reports in the MLS book back in the day. And so I've been born and raised in it as well. So that's great. So let's get right to it. You've got a team. Let's talk to the new agent. What is our message for a newer agent looking to get into the business, or maybe they've been in the business less than a year? What are we telling the newer agents about today's market?
Yeah, first and foremost, Robert, I hope, and what I'm seeing is there's a lot of agents getting involved in the industry because they think it's quick money. So if that's your thought process, just run as fast as you can, because that's not going to happen. But the way I train my new agents, honestly, you start with your sphere of influence, right? You start with people that already know, love you, and respect you. They're always going to do business with you. So my business runs by, I don't pay any leads, and all of my business is referral business. And I start these newer agents off on a very strict program, and giving them a lead tracker, figuring out who their sphere of influence is, and making sure that they get in 60 solid phone calls a week, walking doors, old school stuff that we used to do back in the day. That's the stuff that needs to be done again. But my number one thing is, listen, we are in a business building relationship, right? So build that relationship first, and then the business is going to come to you. That's the thing is, don't go in looking for the check, build the relationships, get that groundwork going, then the money will come to you. But if you look for kind of like quick cash, it's not going to work for you.
It's so many agents that I meet with. I'm a certified mentor, and I have a lot of agents that are new in the business, and they definitely have that. I watched an HD TV show, and now I'm going to be rich.
Yeah.
That's certainly an option, but for the traditional agent working with buyers, sellers, and investors, there is some groundwork. There's some door knocking. There's old school things you need to do. I love it how you put 60 contacts a week. That's great, because this is a contact sport. Real estate
Oh,
is
yeah.
a contact sport, so you have to be prospecting at all times. I know that, especially when you're a newer agent, it takes time to build up that database and those past clients. So reaching into your sphere of influence is a very, very crucial point. What are we saying to the more experienced agents that are maybe having some troubles with, well, the rates have gone up, qualifying for less money now because the rates, the inventory's down? What are we saying to the experienced agents on how to continue to grow their business in this market?
Well, believe it or not, what I'm finding is, since I opened my own coaching business, most of these experienced agents have never actually laid the groundwork. Like if I ask a lot of agents, like, show me your master database list of your sphere of influence. They don't have them. How many client parties are you doing on a monthly basis? How many phone calls are you making? How many networking events? How many thank you cards? And for me, being around for 20 years in such a tough market right now, I'm not struggling. I'm killing it right now. But that's because I have a system in place that constantly keeps me in touch with these people. And at the end of the day, the market is cyclical, right? It always comes up, it goes down, it comes up, it goes down. And whether you're a newer or experienced agent, you need to learn what it is to say to these folks to talk them off the ledge, right? So everybody wants to live in a perfect world where we're going to sell our house high and we're going to buy our house low. And that's not realistic. And I really think that people, especially whether you're newer or older agent, you really need to start researching the Tony Robbins of the world and the Grant Cardones, and understanding the industry, and if we're going to go into a recession, and what exactly it is that you're going to say to that client. So right now, I'm sure you've heard of this, right? Date the rate, marry the house.
Yeah.
It makes perfect sense. So cash in on your property, get your equity, buy your dream home, and then in 2 or 3 years from now, refinance, and now things are just kind of back to normal. but you can't have everything,
Yeah.
right? So there's a little
Amen.
bit of give and take there.
You know what? I totally get it, and that's the key is the date, the rate, marry the home, because you can always refinance it. Sure, rates. I remember when they were 18-20% interest. I mean, that was back some time ago. But as of recent,
Yeah.
I saw the 12, 13, 14% in the early 90s. So I mean, I personally, as long as that payment works within your budget and you're looking to do, so many people want to buy way more than they qualify for, so their own worst enemy. But if we can make those payments work, there's a lot of great programs, whether it be a buy down. There's lots of different things to help buyers, take that hit in the rates. But I think at the end of the day, it's being an educated agent to explain the process to the buyer, whether they're a first time buyer or the most experienced of buyers. They all need us to guide them through the process because not everybody does it every single day like we do. So that's great. And I think that at the end of the day, I have this saying, it works if you do. You
Oh
need to
yeah.
get out there. You need to prospect. And I personally like the lowest hanging fruit, the FISBO, the expired, the canceled. Those are the lowest hanging fruit on the seller tree, in my opinion. But make no bones about it. You need to build your database, whether it be community events, client appreciation parties, just build that database and really manage that database. And actually, the best CRM is one you'll use. So get a CRM if you don't have one. I use KV Core, which I think is one of the best in the business. But at the end of the day, use your systems that you have available. So that's great. So we've talked about what we're going to talk about with the new agents, talked about some of the experienced agents. What are you seeing right now in your market?
Well, I think we're pretty much the same all over the country where there's a lack of inventory. You have so many people out there that are looking at houses and you're submitting, even for your buyers, you're submitting 30, 40, 50 offers that are not getting accepted. I think the unfortunate piece of our business is people don't realize that our time is worth money, right? So we could submit all these offers for these people, work 70, 80 hours, and then they kind of blame it on you that they lost the house, so they fire you. And I think that's probably the toughest thing right now is that you put so much time, energy, and effort into these folks and just trying to let them know, no, stick with me, something is going to stick. But I do believe that prices are going to balance out at some point. I mean, Rhode Island is very different because we're such a small state that, we're not making any more houses here. There's not much land to be built upon. And a lot of people are flocking here, not really sure why. So it's just a tough market overall. But I'm not a fan of paying for online leads. I've never built my business for paying on online leads because those are the folks right now that are struggling more than anything, because if you're not closing a house, you can't afford to purchase the leads.
Yeah.
Right. So I just think it's just that just pound the pavement every day and truly just build solid relationships. And with those relationships will come referrals. And that's what's, I think, for me and the experienced agents, that's how my business is just going to continue to run for the next couple of years. Right now, I will say I'm not grinding the pavement because our state is so small. We have over 7,000 licensed agents. So somebody in Rhode Island knows a realtor.
Yeah.
And every time one more person gets their license, that's probably a loss of another 5 to 7 clients for me, because that's somebody, family member, cousin, and things like that. But as long as I go to these networking events and keep putting my great social media content out there that's educating the public as to what I think is happening with the market, they're viewing you as the professional, and most likely they're going to stick with the professional that has been around a long time.
Absolutely. And you know what I've always been a big fan is I primarily work listings. I have a buyer team that does the buyers. So I don't really fall into that category of writing 20, 30, 40, 60, 80, however many offers. I'm a big fan of working with sellers that become buyers. We'll work with them. But not that I'm excluding the buyers, but I just like to pick my lane and I really do my best work getting the listings and let my buyer team get the buyers. So we're getting hundreds of people into our open houses. There's lots of ways to squeeze the juice from every listing. So I would recommend that if you're watching this, reach out to me and let me show you how to take more listings, because those sellers become buyers. So that's certainly a way to go. So buyers, sellers, investors, there's lots of opportunities. Don't forget, we were just recently at a default conference that we both spoke at, and we both have experience in short sale. We both have experience in the REO space. And so don't forget about the notice of default, the notice of trustees, the sellers that are in distress, whether they're default on their mortgage. We need to make sure we're a resource and reach out to those sellers as well. And we'll certainly catch up with Sherri and go over that in more detail, because we both have a lot of experience in that area. So,
And that's a whole nother ball game. That's such an untapped market. I
yeah,
mean, as you know, it's difficult. Some short sales are out, 2, 3 years before we get them done. But I'm probably making more money now in short sales in today's market, believe it or not. But as you know, these defaults are going to come up. And if you pose yourself as a professional, it doesn't have to be in a bad way, like, hey, sorry, you're losing your house, right? It's more like, hey, listen, this is a business decision. And before the sheriff shows up at your door and puts a padlock on it and your kids are on the street, would you rather have an alternative where we get you out of your house and they forgive your mortgage and we call it a day, and it doesn't have to be an embarrassing situation? For me, it's a business decision that you got your family out of this debt and you're able to kind of move on with your life. But if people don't know short sales, I highly recommend right now they start educating themselves on them. And at least what the conversation is to have with the seller, to not put them in a vulnerable situation where they're embarrassed and they don't want the house to go on the market. Because at the end of the day, what I always say is, listen, your house doesn't love you back like you're going to, if your house doesn't love you back, then you really don't need it.
yeah.
So let's get rid of that debt so you can move on with your life, and not have this big monkey on your back that's going to stress you out and create so much more family drama. The more that you're not paying your mortgage on a monthly basis, the more the family's kind of arguing with each other. And the sad part is it ultimately ends up in a divorce. So before you get to that situation,
Yeah.
let us help you out,
Absolutely. You know what? You hit the nail on the head. And I think most agents need to realize there's a lot of, I just looked today in San Diego, there's 44 notice of defaults and notice of trustee sales filed just today, 44 of them, just in my small market. My opinion is we need to reach out to those folks and be a resource. Come with a contribution, not with commission, but lead with contribution. Let me be a resource for your current situation. And that's why it's so important to get educated on resources, on options for these sellers, because they're in a difficult situation. And I don't want anyone losing their home. I would love it if nobody lost their home. I don't have a lot to do with that nor to say, but I want to make sure I'm a resource in the event they fall into a situation. So like you, we want to make sure that the folks out there know that we are here and are available to help them. So I just appreciate your time today. We talked about some really good stuff, and you are a rock star, and I am just so blessed to have you in my life, and I appreciate you. Just absolutely wonderful. So what closing remarks would we like to say? What's the message we want to say to the agent that's watching this?
To the agent that's watching this, honestly, don't give up. It's a tough market. When you got your license, you bought yourself a business in a box. And there's no business that you open your doors day one and people start flooding in. And go back to the basics. Stop pounding the pavement, knock on doors. And my biggest thing is build relationships first. Money will come secondly, but don't focus on the money.
Amen to that. Well, you heard it here first. Sherri Mercurio, thank you for being my guest on Weichelt Wednesday. And if you ever need anything here in San Diego, I can certainly help you out.
You're the best. I always love chatting with you, my friend.
Talk to you soon.